they said such an appropriate activity for the time we're living in history because schools will be teaching about this pandemic for years to come. I'm sure that's true. So that's really really forward thinking on their part. I thought that was pretty cool. I'd like to welcome Officer Power back to the police force. She's been off and she's back today. I saw her in her car with her mask on. Good job, girlfriend. I would like to start this new thing. I have this Bloom gift certificate. So every month I'm going to get a gift certificate from a different restaurant. And I want people to send in they can send it to me or they can send it here to City Hall or they can send it to any council person or the clerk, whoever they choose. We need to do a great gardens. We have a lot of really cool gardens in this community and people, maybe they're doing better this year because they're home more, but I'm noticing these awesome flowers and gardens, vegetable gardens, and maybe they were always there and I just didn't know it. But I think this is really cool that people are doing this. It's great for their mental health. It's great for our community. Beautification of any kind is good. So here is a gift certificate from Bloom. That's the first thing that's up for grabs this month. We'll start in July because June's almost over. So anybody that sends, give me the address and I'll go and we'll see how many we get. Maybe it's not fair for me to decide. Maybe we need a couple people to go around and decide. We'll see how it works out. We'll see how many we get. And this is the first prize. It's a good one. $50 for Bloom. Hey. So, and lastly, I'm going to read this card. I might cry. That is okay. So I want to cry already. Okay, since the last couple meetings, I was pretty much done. Went home, told my husband, I'm all done with this nonsense now. I'm done with getting beat up on. I'm done with getting called out on the dais from current and past council members. I'm just done. Going home. Not coming anymore. Not going to I don't need this stress. And I really, really felt that, and I meant it. And then I get this card. Now, how'd these people even know? Because they didn't know I was there. I didn't say this to anybody but my husband. So then I get this card in the door the very next day. In the door of my business, I get this card that says, okay, I'm going to cry. The kindness in you brings out the gratefulness in us. Thank you for always being thoughtful. And there's all these nice people that work for the city that wrote all this stuff. Some of them, this one curmudgeon that I know that, is pretty gruff and tough. Can't write anything, but puts a little paw print on there. Okay, pretty cool. Thank you. Thank you for always showing us we're appreciated. Thank you for caring about us. Thank you for having our back. Thank you for the Arizona Bros. Thank you for everything. We want you to know you're appreciated. Thank you for your support. Thank you for always knowing the people's names. Thank you for always supporting us. Thank you for being there. And lastly, this was the clincher for me. Thank you for always thinking of us, and I hope to see you as a council member for a long time. So anybody that wonders why I'm fighting for the people, whether they're residents or the employees, this is why. Because I'm not kidding when I said I was done. Done. So, thank you. Thank you to whoever. I don't know whose idea this was. I think it was awesome, and they're the reason I do this. And so maybe fortunately or unfortunately, depends on your opinion there. I'm gonna stick on. I'm gonna stay on, if the voters so choose. That's it.
Thank you, Shirley. Fernando?
Hi. Congratulations on that letter. You could be an elected official for a very long time and never get that.
Well, maybe not.
Yeah. I would like to acknowledge that Jesse Latham has stepped up in leadership at the Cobra Valley Youth Club, and it kind of fell on his turn, and he gracefully accepted. So he's now the president of the Cobra Valley Youth Club. And Vince Mariscal, who joined our board about 2 years ago, maybe, and he stepped up to be vice chair. So we're grateful to both of them, and it's making the city proud. So also, I had the good fortune of taking a couple of my oldest friends up to the Arizona Trail, my section that I adopted. It's up by Roosevelt. And they tell me that it's on fire now. So I'm so glad they got to go up there and see it before it burned. But because of it, I want to remind everybody that there's people out there putting their lives at risk, trying to protect property and other lives. So just keep them in your prayers, and thank you to all those public servants that put their life on the line every day. Mayor, yours.
Thank you. What I'd like to announce is that make sure if you want to comment on community call to the public or on an item that's on the agenda, you can email into counsel@globeaz.gov, and then we'll call you back. Or we have a cell phone that you can call at 200-0154. And I think it's on the screen too, isn't it, Daniel, that they can see if they want to call in and make any comments. Remember, call to the public. We cannot respond to you. But if you call in for an agenda item, then we can carry a conversation with you. And that's all I have.
And Mr. Mayor, and just to lead off of what you were talking about, the again, the call to the public, we cannot respond. But if you'd like to speak to the item, please email. If you can email us your phone number, and then we will call you back. And because it could get kind of hectic if everybody starts calling the city line. But the easiest way is to, like I say, if you'd like to respond, send an email now, and we can get you lined up if you wanted to talk about, say, something like the COVID update or something like that. Okay. But so, Mr. Mayor, members of council, the update, other than we are going to have a COVID update, and most things I want to talk about is then, but I'll tell you that your staff has been working so hard. Every time we think we can't get a tougher week, we kind of get a tougher week. And more things changing. Not only is Public Works out there with the heat picking up and covering, because they're a little on the shorthanded side and lots of changes. You'd never know, they don't have that consistency. Everybody likes to have consistency at work, and sometimes just can't supply that. And then I know that there have been more and more calls for public service, for public safety, hard calls, difficult calls, and in rows, plus the heat. And then on top of that, you have a brush fire really close. So everybody's been stepping up, working hard, even through all these times of turmoil. You all should be very proud. So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, that's all I have.
Thank you.
Could I respond? I'm sorry. As you mentioned Public Works and them being shorthanded there, I forgot to add that there are two new, I know Delbert is he's doing the inspections now, like out when there's road work and what. And I'm hoping I say this right. Is Jerry is the newest laborer? Is it Jaden? I think
that's right.
Oh, one of the intern. Okay. So I saw him out there. He was. It's hard to tell with these masks on if somebody's smiling or growling, right? But he looked pretty smiley. So he was watering out on Broad Street. So yeah, it's hard now. We don't get to meet them because they can't come in here so I'd just like to acknowledge the both of them.
Thank you. We go to our first community call to the public. Do we have any calls or emails, Kelly?
I believe we have one. I can't access the email anymore on my phone. Do we have a counsel at globeaz.gov? I believe there was.
Was it a callback or?
I think it was a statement that they just wanted.
Okay.
And are you able to read that statement? Okay.
Yeah, if you can read that, yes, that way we can. We got to learn all this technical stuff to get in.
Oh,
to get through this.
Terrible at it. My son always says, "Technology is your friend."
Okay, Mr. Mayor, Council, this comment is from the Marine family. They're unavailable to talk by phone, but they wanted to send in their concerns for safety in writing regarding the George Floyd graffiti mural on the highway. It reads, "First, I recognize the tragedy that the death of George Floyd was and the impact that it has had on our country. It was terrible. However, I am very concerned about the ongoing discourse and the possibility of violence for Globe. I am worried about public safety and feel that the graffiti mural that is on the building on our highway, I Can't Breathe, with one huge image of Floyd, will keep people riled up and create a dangerous situation in our community. There is no place for this in our community. It is not appropriate and can cause problems for our community, even attracting people from other communities that can cause real problems, property damage, injuries, and worse. This is a public safety issue. I am asking that you seriously consider taking appropriate action to get the graffiti removed from the building. Their message has been sent and received. Please do all to keep the peace and keep our community safe. As I said before, this is a serious public safety issue. Sincerely, the Marine.
Thank you, Shelley. Any other ones do we have?
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, as you know, we can't respond to that, and unless there's any follow-up, we'll say. Well, I mean, it's known by all, and we are doing what we're doing our homework.
Okay. So we'll go to yes, Freddie. Go ahead.
So I have a question. So obviously we can't respond, but is this something that the city staff can respond?
We can respond directly to them.
Okay.
We can reach back out and reply directly to him. I can have a phone call and explain.
Okay.
And that would be if he were here in the room, we could talk to him offline.
Right.
And so we can go to him and try to talk to him either by email or phone.
Sure. Yeah, if you just let them know what codes and rules and things like that and how that.
Yeah, there's
okay.
Yeah. And there's other ones too that I will turn in some names. I've gotten emails and phone calls, and I think that's the same that we need to respond to people. We're getting. I got quite a few today, actually.
I would say let's send them to the clerk, and we can set up a pool and make sure that we get back to those people.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So we go to special presentations and ceremonial matters. Item A is staff will provide council with an update on the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission. Chris?
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is in response to Councilman Pastor's request, but I think everybody's happy to get a little bit of a brief update on where we are with this.
Item A is staff will provide council with an update on the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission. Chris? Feedback.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Is there a PowerPoint supposed to be up there? And this controls it, Danny? Okay. Back in April of 2000, City Council adopted Resolution 1313 establishing the historic district, the guidelines, and the boundaries for the historic district. Section 1424, Globe Preservation Advisory Commission. Of course, it's an advisory commission to the council. Reviews request of the historic district, makes these recommendations to the council. Then we have membership, terms of office, and qualifications. So the Globe Historic Preservation Advisory Commission consists of no fewer than 5 and no more than 9 members. Currently, the commission has 5 members that were last appointed on August 2016. So I think right now their terms are all expired. So because each member is supposed to serve a 3-year term, and so there was recommendations when this whole ordinance was, or this whole resolution was put together as far as how this committee should be comprised. And so they said if it's possible, it'd be great if we could have an architect on there, licensed building contractor, a member of the Gila County Historic Society, owner of a building in the district, and at least half of the membership should be residents of the city of Globe, and it says that members can be removed for failing to go to the meetings. That's a good idea. So the Historic Preservation Committee reviews the plans of proposed projects for buildings within the district that involve exterior changes to the building and work to have a close cooperation with the State Historic Preservation Office. And this includes, of course, painting, windows, awnings, new construction, signs, and we have painting listed again. Guess they really meant that one. So recommendations for the project are passed along to council for the final approval. So the process, this is where things are kind of changing. The process for the Historic Preservation Committee is, until recently, somebody wanted to do something, they would go straight to a member of the committee, probably Joe Nell, and say, hey, I'm going to paint my building. And then they would hold a meeting when they got around to it. And then they'd say, okay, they'd send it over here, we'd put it on an agenda, and it would get passed. But especially right now, with the COVID stuff, we had a period where it was hard to get a quorum for their meetings. And we had a couple of things come up that needed to be approved. People wanted to move forward with their buildings. So we're kind of changing things up where that's the proposals will come to City Hall. And then the city clerk will schedule a meeting and tell everybody, okay, your meeting's here. We could set you up via all this electronic stuff and have virtual meetings, or we can have some people here, some people away, all kinds of options there as far as getting these things done. And then that way we know when things go to the Historic Preservation Committee, and then they would come to council. Before sometimes there was lags in between stuff happening over at the Historic Preservation Committee, and we weren't aware of these projects actually going on. But that is changing with this with the new plan here. So also along with the Historic Preservation Committee and the stuff, city received that grant from SHPO, the State Historic Preservation Office, and this is going to provide us with a lot of the documents that we need. We needed to update the design review guidelines. The current one, there's stuff in there that references old code from like Chapter 19. We don't even have it Chapter 19 anymore. So the meat and potatoes of it are good. It's got good bones. This document is good, but we need to get it updated, and that's in the process of being done, or at least drafted. And then when the draft gets complete, then we bring it to a public meeting where the public will be allowed to have input on how this is all done. And then we would bring it to council for your approval, or or any changes you would like to make in there also. That's the big thing that is going to happen with that. Updating the map to make sure that we've got a good boundary map of that district. One of the other things is we've got buildings that are very large buildings and would be extremely difficult for just a regular guy to come in purchase that building and say, okay, what am I going to do with this thing? This thing is huge. How am I going to develop this? So we're having architectural renderings done of a couple of buildings, a couple of large buildings anyway, that show different options as far as mixed-use occupancy. So you don't have to the entire building doesn't have to be offices, or it doesn't have to all be one thing or another. It can be a mixed use. And this is what these renderings are going to help, hopefully, get some developers in here and look at some of those buildings and say, hey, I like this rendering. This is actually not a bad idea. You don't have to do exactly what's in the rendering, but I see where you're going with this, and yeah, hopefully this happens with some of these larger buildings. And we're looking at a late September completion of this, so it may go a little bit longer because of the COVID stuff, but that's our goal, is the late September. So the actual goals of the commission are to meet within compliance with the open meeting law, meet timely when applications are filed with the city, open communications within the meeting with business owners, and review within the guidelines of the historic preservation. However, provide liberal opinion options that complement the historic time period and the buildings, and actually work with the aesthetics of the downtown district. So, are there any questions on the historic preservation committee or processes or?
Mayor?
Yeah, I have a few questions, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Chris, you mentioned that you're looking at establishing border lines for the boundary. What are the boundaries right now?
Currently, it's kind of jumbled. Is there a way to get the city website up on here?
It's downtown, and then a block back on either side of the downtown strip, starting at the railroad trestle, block in, block out, and then it goes all the way to the Hill Street School. It used to only go just before Nerdburger, and then Kip got it extended up to and including the Hill Street School.
Okay. So on the city website, if you scroll down on the home page, there's a interactive zoning map. And within that zoning map, there's a layer that shows the historic district. I think it's called HP overlay on almost there. The HP overlay on there?
So it's this pink area?
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you see that on the screen?
Yeah. Okay. And
It's hard to see from back here, but it's kind of a peachy color.
Yeah. And you said that the commission's going to look at expanding that now?
This is part of the public process. Do we need to make it out further, or do we have too much stuff in here? This is all part of the public process. Okay. And then all these comments would come back to the mayor and council for your stuff, your approvals.
Can I address that because I'm on this? I'm on the Downtown Association board, and what do you see the juts that go like in and out? How the parcels are jutting in and out. So what the historic or the Downtown Association has proposed, and before we got this grant, they'd actually had asked Tanner from Western Repro to make a new map showing the proposed. They want to make these lines straighter and not come in and out. We've got houses and businesses and I know that one part where it comes way in on Mesquite. That's actually the same one person's parcel that part of it's in the historic district and part of it isn't. So they wanted to make the lines clearer, more defined, and straighter.
That's what we need. That's what we need that input to make.
They do have a proposed map. I bet you Tanner has that because the Downtown Association had taken it to him to update. I'm sure you can get that from Tanner.
Are you talking about downtown or the historic preservation?
Well, the Downtown Association was working in conjunction with the historic preservation.
That's great.
So they actually have the map. The downtown, but I bet Tanner's the one that has the map.
Okay, cool. We'll get that.
I still have some.
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
You mentioned that all the members' terms have expired, but they're still currently serving. Is there some reason why we haven't renewed or recruited?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, to Councilman Pastor, with the new budget cycle last year, we had hoped to get some people lined up, and I can't say why we never got that far in doing that. It was just we kind of dropped the ball on that. But their term keeps on going, and so it's not like they're serving improperly, but their terms are expired, but they allow them to do their job if they haven't been replaced.
They allow them? Who's they?
The city, the code, the bylaws.
Okay.
Mike, I've been attending those meetings now because I'm also part of that. But we've been trying to transition into abiding by the open meeting law. So we have changed our meetings that were held in the office in the downtown area to here in City Hall. Shelley serves as the secretary, so she sets the meetings up. Now there's more documentation on meeting, and then just trying to get them compliant with the open meeting law. So I think that was a big push here in the last year, probably.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not being critical of the committee. I just want to understand what it does and how it's working and everything. Now you mentioned that members can be removed for not attending meetings. Is there a certain amount of meetings a member has to miss? Because in some organizations it's 3 meetings, 6 meetings. Is there any number on that? Or
I would defer to Chris on. Chris, do we have a number?
I don't remember, but I thought it was 3 in a row.
3 in a row? Okay.
In Mr. Mayor, members of Councilman Pastor, usually they're unexcused absences, and it has to be that organization needs to have them.
Yeah.
So.
And let's see, I got a couple other, one more, I think. A couple more. Then you said we've received a SHPO grant. How much was that for?
I'm sorry.
You said we've received. The city's received a SHPO grant. How much is that for?
Yes, sir.
5,000.
No, I thought it was 20,000.
Oh my, we're all wrong. I heard 5.
How many, Jeannie? So 33 total when you match it up. Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, I think.
Can I finish?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
All right. The other question I had is you had mentioned that we are developing a draft of changes for the Preservation Committee. Who is we? The committee and you, or?
Well, we have our zoning administrator is working on basically working from the old set of guidelines and kind of updating them as far as code sections go, as far as maybe some modernization of allowable, let's say windows, for instance, is a good example. Since this was written, technology has improved where you could have historic looking windows that are energy efficient.
Sure.
So that's just an example of some of the updates that may be in there. Then there's sections for restoring the old buildings, and then there's sections in there about say a vacant lot and you wanted to build a new building, kind of guidelines on that. So
Okay, thank you. The reason I was curious is because I have, and I will tell you, I have a constituent who wants to be part of this committee. And, you know, I don't understand if you have 9 openings and you only have 5 filled and they're all expired. Obviously, we're not putting a whole lot of effort into this committee, as important it is for economic development and helping the community look a lot nicer than it does. I would suggest we, you know, I know there's a lot going on, but we need to stay on top of this. I think it's important. I love this town, even though I'm a vandal. Okay, I love this town. I love the old buildings. There's a lot of potential out there, but it doesn't seem like anything's getting done. And every time we've had a recommendation since I've been on this board, we've always had issues with something. So we need to. Personally, I'd like to see it get a little bit better straightened out. Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mike. Do a comment.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, so we are the changes that we're looking at are a lot in the style and standards as to what we're doing. Some of the issues that we've talked about passive or tan colors versus bright colors. So we're going to bring a palette, an updated, not a palette, but an updated group of standards as to what that should represent. And sometimes you have these conversations about, do you want pure historic? Because pure historic had a whole lot of advertising on big walls. Or do you want to have what we kind of think of as a historic look to it? And those standards we brought forward, and then this body can look at those and decide what should be in and what shouldn't. And then I know that Councilwoman Giles had talked about even eliminating our the preference on paint colors. And I think that was something that should we or should we not be approving paint colors. That's also in this, that's going to come forward in these changes. What is not in the changes, I don't think we're looking to the core structure of how the board is functioning or the number of members or anything like that. It's all about how they implement the standards that they implement. So I just wanted to clarify that. Now, to your final point, it would be probably a good time for staff to put this on the agenda, to put out applications, and if get direction from this presentation, to put out a call for applications, and that would be for people who want to re-up and continue their service, or new people who want to be added on there. Like say we have some flexibility with some, so we don't have to, we have, if we want some new people and a mix of the old people, we can play with a number. But if it's council's direction, we can move forward with advertising for openings and for appointments, both fresh appointments and reappointments for that. And we can, with your direction, we can start that immediately.
So I do think we need to publicize that we are looking for 9 members for this board. I'm fine with some of them being existing and some new, but I think the quorum issue is always going to be an issue. I mean, these folks all have jobs and they all can't meet all at the same time. So if we have a full slate, certainly we can get a quorum if we have 9 members on the board. And we know there's people that want to be on the board, so let's publicize and get it out there. Yeah, and the paint, I really do think, I think we're deterring people. I know we're deterring people. I know my husband and I were deterred from buying a building downtown, which we seriously considered doing. Other folks have said to me, it's much too restrictive. The guidelines and the paint color is a big thing for me, because I would want my building bright. I don't want a tan building. And I think that it seems like such a simple thing, but it is deterring people. The whole thought behind it's a historic building and you can't alter it and this and that. These are different times we're living in. I believe this is a wonderful old historic town, but I think we need to give more leeway in our regulation. It's
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, and Councilwoman Giles, just because this is the one probably the dropping the ball by city staff on the education process. The historical preservation brings recommendations for or against to council, and it is council that would decide. So if historical was not like, if you brought something, that was brighter or more, out there in the color, and historical voted not to support that, you would still come to the city council with a vote saying that, we want to approve these colors, but just so you know, historical preservation is not in support of that. And so they are not the end all be all in that decision. but a recommendation, and we'd like to work together with the group to keep the recommendations. That's why I think it's time to upgrade those standards and make sure that they're modern, because we've seen a change. I mean, you see fashion changes, and we've seen that with color schemes.
Yeah.
Mayor?
Go ahead, Fernando.
Okay, and I think Paul actually nailed it. They're an advisor group based on history. Okay, so we want professionals. We want people that actually understand what that is. Me and Kip had a discussion many times on what was in the color palette. He defied me to find a color that he couldn't find that wasn't in there, called some weird name because it was named in 1936. Okay, but almost every color that you can imagine is in there. You just got to look for it. So my point is this. I don't want a bunch of yes sir boys in there. I don't want people that go with the wind, what's popular today. I want them to give us sound advice based on architecture, based on historic palettes, or whatever it is. We are the elected officials, and we get to decide. So if you want to totally ignore it and do what you want to do because you think it's a great idea, you have the power to do that. So there's nothing that needs to be changed as far as them, and you can't say, well, we don't want you to look at color palettes because we don't like history. Well, then do what you want to do when it comes to the vote. But we should still get sound advice, and it's up to you whether or not you want to go by that advice. And the other thing is that it sounds like they're circumventing things, but I'm sorry. If I'm going to go out and I want to try to do the right thing, I'm probably going to go to Jonelle Brantley because she knows where all the information is. Can I do this? I don't want to have a meeting, wait for 3 weeks until you guys decide you're going to have a meeting. And if she says, I don't like it and I don't agree with her, and then I go through the process and try to get council to see my logic. And I think that's kind of where we're at, except for we drop the ball and their boards aren't current and they're not full. But those people, they work hard and they try and they care and they don't have to agree with you. You get the final say. So I don't really think that it's broken, except for we need to pay it attention and get it fully manned and make sure that their meetings are open to the public because they're a public board. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Fernando. And I agree with that comment also. Like I said, I've been attending these meetings here lately, and they do got some passionate people on that board, and they do give some good advice. I think the biggest key that I've seen in attending the meetings is we have a communication breakdown between the board and the city. I don't know where it's on their side or our side, but it just seems like there's a delay in trying to get these applications moving and colors and architect approved. So what the way we change that is it has to come to the city, so the city will initiate the meeting. But these individuals are volunteers and they do give good advice. I mean, they're talking about the facade of the front of the buildings. They're not talking about the structure itself, interior. I mean, that's building code, that's fire code, but it is. And the color's the same thing. I think they've opened up their palettes. I know people don't like to be told about colors, but I think we also need to look at the historic too, and make sure that we're going in compliance with that. Or there's palettes. I guarantee you, there's colors. I think it was limited just to we had at ACE, and now there's national palettes that we can add in there. But it's that communication, I think, that we're having the breakdown where we're not getting those applications in and getting them moving and get these people excited about. Yeah, we do discourage people when we don't get things done right away, and I think we do need to increase the board. I hope some of those individuals will stay on the board, but I think we should increase it. We have the capacity of 9 people, so we should increase some more.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I just wanted to touch on briefly on a comment that Councilman Shipley talked about. One of and Mayor, as you talked we can turn a meeting around very quickly. We can, if we know that we need a meeting, somebody needs to meet, we can get it together and get a quorum. And we've done that in the matter of 3 days, so we can meet council deadlines. I hesitate in encouraging people to meet solely with Jonelle, because that leaves out the input of all the other wonderful board members who may have a say on what they like and what they don't like. It really should be a conversation between that building owner and that group, and as to what they think is best, because that is how the process really should be working, in the way of, and so you if you want to, like, say, what do I need to do? We'll come to the group. We're having meetings anyway, and have that conversation, get the feedback, and then get the ideas of all the members of the group, and then come back with a final decision. I hate to see these kind of negotiated outside the meeting, and then come in with just, here's what's on the table. This all been pre-negotiated. So then, and it doesn't happen all the time, but I've seen it happen a couple times, and people, and so I think just for the flow of it, and it does take time, but it's in there for a reason. And I've seen wonderful research where they've dug up the colors of different buildings and proven that this green is worthy of being painted, and different things like that. It is a process. I think we just got to make sure that the turnaround time is taken out, and Shelley's done a wonderful job of turning these meetings back around real quickly and getting everybody on board. I think that logjam has been broken.
And I think they're waiting for the update on the guidelines, but we're also waiting on this new map, the new boundaries. I think we keep saying, well, we're putting it off. We'll wait until we get these new boundaries and these studies done. So I think that's what the delay is, upgrading the guidelines and stuff like that. But again, the key is the communication. We got to communicate better between the board and the city to get these people moving.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, and the building owners. And so anyone who would like to get through the process, please contact the city, and we will set up the meetings with our historical preservation, make sure that they are there in a timely fashion, and you get the turnaround time that you need. And Mr. Mayor, Shelley has, I think, a phone call.
We got a call.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I've had somebody call about 4 times. I believe they're wanting to speak to me.
Okay.
And then I have another. We have 2.
So Shelley is dialing the number for someone. So okay.
This is a new phone.
So if you were trying to call Shelley, she should be calling you right now.
One more comment. The thing that bothered me also is, Charlene, what you said. Why hasn't the Downtown Association communicated with the city or as the changes or the recommendation? Where are those going to? Why aren't those being shared, or is that just in that group?
I don't believe that.
Hello?
In that sense, the
Sherry?
thing.
Yes?
Hold on just a second.
3 or 4 months.
Is that just in that group?
I don't believe that. Hello? Yes?
Sherry?
Yes, but I'm going to turn my sound off.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sherry, go ahead and state your name, and you're talking to the council.
Thank you. My name is Sherry Rice, and Mr. Mayor and council members, I'm very frustrated. I thank my representative, council member, Mr. Mike Pastor. Back in November or December of last year, I called and I asked. I said, I was president of the Friends of the Gold Park Library for 2 years. And I said, I've taken a year off, and now I'm ready to get involved again. And Shelley informed me that it was open applications for the Preservation Committee, Historical Preservation Commission, excuse me. And so I completed my application. I took it to the city on January 1st, and I've not heard a word. Mike attempted to intervene a couple of times for me, but I still have no idea where my application is. Thank you.
Do you know where that application went, or where? So you have it here, but okay.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'm assuming that would you like us to go ahead and put this on the agenda for the 14th and do a call for applications, and so you have a group of applications, or?
I think that is a pleasure of the council. That I would say that yes, because then we need to re-up if any of the members need to re-up their if they want to run again. If they're expired, we need to just renew everything. And if we got people that are interested, we need to listen to them also or bring them in on board.
Okay.
Everybody is good.
I agree.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the reason I brought it up, Mr. Mayor, because I had heard complaints and, that's brought it forth.
Good.
So, and Mr. Mayor, members of council will be sure to include Sherry Rice's application on that and have her and we'll agendize it so possible making that appointment. So the appointment is, I think, a mayor's recommendation with council approval of the appointment, as we did, I think, the last committee.
And may I say one more thing?
Go ahead.
I was on the city's library committee when it was reestablished, and I think you had a great idea in having rotating terms. That way, there would be always someone on the committee who has past practice, past history, and so forth. I think you've set up the library committee, the city library committee, in a very good way. Paul.
Well, thank you.
Sherry, thank you for your input, and it will be addressed now. We will follow that through and be contacting you then.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sherry.
Members. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Dan Schindler.
Okay.
Hi, Dan.
Hello.
This is Globe City Council. Hello.
Hi. How are you?
You're before the council.
Oh, hello, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to put in my 3 cents. I have sort of 2 comments that touch on both sides of this issue. One is, if it's going to be historic, I think it should be exactly that. It should be historic, and it should include not just the palette colors of the time, but the ability to have likeness type signs on the walls, like how so many have been painted over or scraped off or have deteriorated over the years. And on the other side of the coin, it's also, well, what qualifies as meeting that historic standard? Does it come down to fonts on signs? Can signs be lit? They certainly weren't 120 years ago, I don't think. Where do we draw that line? And on the completely other side of the matter, when it comes to colors that someone wants to just paint their building, I think there should be, if we go that way and not the historical route, there should be a lot of latitude there. And it's very important to exercise complete objectivity and not one's own or a committee's own or a board's own or a council's own artistic sensibilities. And I think that needs to be considered when it comes to giving plenty of latitude on this issue. So again, if it's going to be historic, make it historic all the way. If you're going to go the other way, I think there should be plenty of latitude so that people can do what they want. For what it's worth, my wife and I have seen about 7 movies in a row lately that had beautifully colored buildings. And when they showed an aerial shot, I was like, wow, what a beautiful city. So just wanted to add my objectivity to that topic. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So it's something that we need to address. I think now that we're opening up our city again and with economic development, I think that's all part of it. We need to be business. We need to be open to the business community and their comments.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, yes, and I know that this council has been very business friendly. We don't want to be that hurdle that keeps business from getting started. We want to make sure things stay on track, and the education process, and that's another thing that we're working on is getting the word out there as to what it means when you live in the historic district, and what your responsibilities and what the pathways are. And it's on there that something that we are still trying to accomplish. And my apologies for some of the lack of responsiveness in a couple of these areas.
Any other calls, Shelley? Fernando, any comments?
I just have to say that we have more than one set of codes and more than one set of regulations. And so I recently ran into a constituent that had run into code compliance issues, but also was in a historic district. And so on one hand, they're being beaten on the head with, you got to comply, you got to comply, you got to fix this. And on the other hand, they're in this, you have to do it in a certain way. And they want to do that, but it's not worked out. They have not even been able to get a contractor that's able to come up here and do what they want to hire them to do. So in those situations, I really think that's where we have an opportunity as a council to look at the advice given by the historic preservation, look at what we need to do with code, and maybe finding some other compromise in between that will enhance the community, but at the same time help us move forward. And so I just think as long as we're flexible and we try to meet the needs of the constituents, we try to do the right thing, I think we'll be fine.
Thank you. Any other comments? So we'll bring that back to
yes, and bring it back at the next meeting with we'll advertise for people who want to apply. We'll inform the people who are currently on the historical preservation if they want to re-up, they can apply also, and then bring a slate forward as we did before and see how many we get. My only caution, not caution, but just informational. If we right now we have 5, and so if 3 people can meet, we have a quorum. If we go to 7-member board, then if 4 people can meet, we have a quorum and can vote. If we go to 9, then we have to have 5 people who can get in the room and meet and come to consensus. And so I just didn't want the confusion if we had 9, it's not like we have, the other way would be to have 5 or 7 people and have 2 alternatives that could come in and be available. And I think that might be, maybe go to 7 with 2 alts. And if they're available, they can fill those slots if the 2 can't. So we can at least make sure we have that 4-person quorum. And so that would be it's everything's much simpler as long as it's an odd number, so we don't have a typo.
And people are more apt to, everybody's busy and they've got lives and kids and whatever, but if they're an alternate, that's not committing as much time. I mean, people are apt to go ahead and volunteer to be an alternate. And so I like the idea of the board with the alternates.
And I would say that if we have, let's say we have a 7-person with 2 alternates, and if everybody can make the meeting, I think the alternates come, sit in, learn, enjoy, because they need to be ready in case they need to step up. And so, anyways, Mr. Mayor, members of council, so I think we've gotten clear direction on that. And Councilman Pastor, thanks for getting us going on this again. Thank you.
Thank you. So item B is presentation of City of Globe's internal and external response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Paul.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I don't have any formal presentation for this. I just wanted to kind of give some updates. I think there are 3 parts of the update. The first part will be me talking about what we're doing internally and a little bit on the external that we've seen. The second part would be, Mr. Mayor, I'd pitch it to you because you, as mayor, did the mask ordinance or the mask proclamation. And then I know that I think Linda is available to talk about the business outreach, which is so important to go along with that. I think everybody's very well aware that when we reopened or allowed business to reopen, we ended up with a second wave to a point. Seems to be and I'm not a doctor and I'm not a health department employee, but what I've seen just as a layperson is an uptick in cases that tend to be on the younger side, but there definitely is an uptick. The City of Globe had not, other than opening up the bathrooms, and the playgrounds, we had not reversed ourselves in any of the protections we've taken in A-Team, B-Team, and people working from home, in keeping people separated safe. And you as a body, as council, have kept your protections in place in the way of virtual meetings and limiting the number of people. And we've worked out this system. I've always believed that let's hold on, see how things go, because when you start whiplashing staff, they get ineffective. Our staff has stayed on the ball. We've worked through our issues, and they're being very, very effective at doing what we're doing. So now that we're in the middle of this quote unquote second wave, we are still functioning, I think, very efficiently given all the things on the table. Our COVID command team, we meet at 8:30 and 4:30 every day. We talk about issues, make sure that we're consistent in how we treat people, make sure the bigger question is what we're coming up a lot with is people who have close contact with people who are have been put in quarantine because of their close contact with somebody impacted. And so we're working through our protocols on that situation. The county has their protocols. We have our internal protocols as to how to manage that. We're learning. And I've always said we'd finish the command team when we ran out of things to talk about. Well, we have not run out of things to talk about. And we're still fighting for PP&E. We're still keeping contact with the county. We have the fire overlay on top of that. And we're watching, as everybody's watching, what the governor does, what the county does, and what can we do to both protect our employees internally, and what we can do to help make Globe a safe place for their residents. So that's just a mini sketch of what we're continuing to do. Oh, I will say I did update the website. I can say for certainty that I don't think we will be opening library, Besh, the fields for team league play until after the mask, till we resolve the mask requirements. At least right now, I think I can say that we'd always said we'd look at that in July. I think that's window's getting pushed further out. We don't want to be, and so we want to wait and know that it's safe and things have hit a level of assurity. So we're not looking for changing or reopening those. We're not looking for bringing people back into City Hall yet. We're going to wait and see, and we're functioning good now. Let's hold the ship steady. And when things look calmer and things look more, we have more certainty, we'll look at what we need to do when it's safe to start bringing back. Other organizations have thought it was safe, have started to peel back some of their protections or some of their changes and had to go back to and re-implement. We have not had to do that.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank this council for continuing supporting this decision actually that I had to make. I want to thank staff and Paul. There was a lot of work, a lot of hours put into from Thursday till Saturday noon till we got this proclamation signed. A lot of work, a lot of research. We waited a little bit to see a lot of the proclamations that were set out there by different cities. We kind of we took a combination of a lot of them. And our approach to this proclamation was to try not to be non-punitive, but try to be more education and more self-compliant with complying with a mask. I know, I got swamped with emails and phone calls, and I saw social media. I saw the overwhelming support was there in the positive. There was the negatives. But again, it's good to listen to all of those, and that's how we developed this proclamation, is to be able to listen to everybody's input to come out with a solution. And this may not be the right solution, but we have no plan. I was hoping that our state leadership would have stepped up and made it mandatory and taken. We didn't have a plan from the state. We were just going to wait and make sure that and fill beds in the hospitals, and that isn't a plan. Our numbers are rising. We had 4,400 cases this weekend, new cases this weekend. That puts us over 37,000. We have 1,200 deaths. We've had a 300% increase in our state since May. So we have no plan. I mean, this thing is burning out of control, and we have no plan to slow it down. If mask and social distancing is our only plan, we need to try it, and we need to try and get these numbers down and get it stopped, not only in our state, but especially in our community. I want to thank the businesses too. They've been very supportive in what they're doing. I know that, and I will have, if Linda's going to be on there, I know they're out on the streets, handing out. We have flyers that we gave them, that Mr. Pastor has over there. So this is what we're doing with them, giving the FAQs and getting them out there. The problem we're not having is that we're not having the tracking in our state. And the governor yesterday issued 300 National Guardsmen to help with tracking in our state. I really don't believe, I know we're testing more and we expected more, but I don't think that's a cause of our increase in the numbers. I think when we thought we were going to start testing a lot of people, that we were going to dilute it with negatives, and that isn't happening. If we look at our PCR percentages, we were down at 5% when we opened the state, and now we're over 10%. So there's a lot of people getting infected. It's widespread. It's not something that's just diluted out there.
2,000 cases this afternoon since yesterday.
Yeah. It's an average of 2,500, 3,000 a day. In our city alone, we're seeing probably 5, 6, 7 a day in the last 2 weeks. So it's out there. And when we look at our city of Globe, and 2/3 of them are 35 years and younger, or maybe it's 44 and younger. So it's a younger generation that are getting infected in our community. But not only in our community, but we're seeing it in Phoenix and other areas too. So, I hope this will help us. I don't know if it will. Time will tell. But we can't sit back and not do anything and just watch it go out of control. And I know that many cities across the state, the mayors have been asking for some kind of plan, I know, for the last 3 weeks, and we haven't seen one. So I know many cities have joined the coalition to initiate this order, and 2 counties, I think it's Pima and Maricopa, also passed it in the last day or two. So hopefully we'll see some changes, some numbers, and so we can keep our economy open. We don't want to shut down our economy again. It'll kill us. With that, if anybody has any questions or comments.
I have a question. It's kind of related. It was actually when you were speaking about the library in Besh. So I've had people ask me that when about the library in Besh, and just today somebody said to me, well, why, the stores are open and the restaurants are open, why is the library not open? A lot of people utilize the library, a lot more than we think, use the library, and especially now with kids not being in school. I know they can go and sit in the parking lot. The library's been good about publicizing that if they're in the parking lot, they can access the Wi-Fi. But there's a lot of people in our community that don't have Wi-Fi. There really are. And a lot of them have young children, and they would like to get in the library. I'm asking for them. What's our thought process behind if we can be in stores and other businesses and restaurants with masks on, why can't they be in the library with masks?
We are working on I can't remember the name, the drive up and check, where you can go in and you can pull in and order a book and come, like takeout service basically.
But that wouldn't help with the computers.
No, that wouldn't help with the computers. I just believe that the level of you would have I don't think you keep the separation with the size of our library, and going from keyboard to keyboard and in the internal air, even with masks. I'm hesitant to do to take that step, because I would hate to see. And I think the library caters to a wide range of age groups, and so you would have. I don't know that people in high risk or elderly would even use it, even if it was open. It's something that I have not seen. That and nice, Adria's texting me, so let me see if.
Pretty cramped in there.
Yeah, the curbside service.
Small facility, and the computers are just right next to each other. There's nowhere else to go.
Right, and so I would say I don't know how the mask is going to play out, and I could see if the numbers were down and we were on the backside slope, that maybe we could look at that with limited number of people in there, kind of like the banks are doing and things like that.
Every other station, maybe every other computer station or something like that.
And I'd like to check with Adria and see what other libraries are doing. I think that Payson did reopen theirs, but I need to check with them and see how that went. But gosh, I would hate to have our library turn into a hotspot, and hear that people got, So it's just, I mean, I will tell you, the COVID team has been accused of being very conservative. So I will when we talk about this stuff, I think Active Adult Center definitely gonna, they're serving a lot of meals, and sorry that they aren't able to socialize that one. The museum, I think it's slow time now anyway. So, and just for the museum itself is not open. The building, but people are welcome to come and walk through. We open the gates with it. Yeah, the grounds are there, so we kind of have an outside world there. But let me see if I can let me think on that one. Okay, and if there is a way that we can keep the distancing and make it safe and keep it clean, and we are looking at the services for the custodial services, which we may jump ahead and do pretty quick too. And that might help also.
I think with Adria, looking at Adria's input, I think it's something that we should truly look at. I agree that the library should open, but it's going to be limited. If we limit to access, not as many people, if we're able to do maybe temperature checks or social distancing, mask, I think it's important. But again, Adria, if she can come up with some kind of plan, it's worth looking at to try and get the library open in the future here.
And let me just throw this thought out there. I don't know if this is a realistic thing, but we have that meeting room that you really could put a good number of computers in that meeting room, but that would entail somebody like Danny going over there and rewiring things. I don't know anything about technical aspects, but if we're going to keep the meeting room closed to the public, that's an option to let kids in there that need computers and Wi-Fi.
And I would just say in defense of Danny, the county serves the Wi-Fi.
That's right.
All the computer stuff over there is county. So,
it's a thought.
Yeah.
It's a thought
no. But I believe you're the. Let me run this through the COVID team. Let me check with Adria on what best practices. She texted me that Payson is by appointment. And so if you make that appointment, you could do that.
That's a big facility.
Yeah. It's a beautiful facility. She's saying that there are gradual reopening plans. And so, and just so you know, we're in the middle of, we got the carpeting in, we're putting it back together. And so there's, the time is not being wasted. While we're down, we're getting it spiffied up and getting, straight.
Inventory.
Yeah, the inventory's inventory I think is done. They're getting the carpets in. They're getting the books back on the shelves, and so it's going well. But at some point, and so I know that it won't happen by June. But let me at the July 14th, maybe we can look at a plan of gradual reopening and see what everybody thinks, and see if the COVID team recommends that. Those are our experts. Let's see what else she's added. They're using the meeting room for staging the meals for the kids' meals, and so every day they spread out all that. Would you like to have Adria call in to talk more about this, or should we do this on the 14th?
Wait till the 14th.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's do this on the.
She can do some research and maybe come back with a tentative plan just to look at.
By the 14th, if the kids are going back to school by August the 2nd, there'll be only 2 more weeks of lunches for the meeting room, so that.
Yeah, well, and everything's, this not sure exactly where we're gonna be, but no. Let's do this for update on the 14th on the library and what Adria is texting me is calling a gradual reopening. Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
And Mr. Mayor, we have Linda, I think, available to call in. Linda, if you want to, I think she's not going to Zoom in. She's going to use her cell phone to call in on Zoom. Because there's no video. Is she there? And the one thing Mr. Mayor, Members Council, I do want to say, this mask proclamation is about protecting masks required in public places, public accommodation, public spaces. It overlaps in the business world when you serve the public or in any fashion. If your business is a business that you never have contact with any members of the public, and you hard to imagine one that, but the medical marijuana growth facility, that is not a public facility, that is a manufacturing only facility. This does not apply to there. The only time we tell a business what to do is if their people are coming in contact, have interaction with the public. So let's say you had an auto body shop or a repair shop, and you had the whole shop, but you have like one room where you go in, you drop your keys off, you get your prices, you sign. The mask would be required in that one area when you walk, where the person helps you over the counter. But back in the rest of the shop, It is up to the employee and the employer. They have requirements. We have internal requirements that we live by. The county has their internal requirements. It is about wearing masks in public places. Residents are private places. If it's private property, it's private places as long as you're not serving the public. So and some people think it's everywhere. It's only in those what we would call public spaces. And I think
we're seeing. You don't have to be driving around with a mask. You leave the house, you don't have to have a mask. If you're walking downtown and you're by yourself or you're with your family, there is no requirement on that unless you can't social distance from a non-member family.
But if you're going to congregate, if you're meeting some friends down and they're not your people you live with, then you should mask up.
Yeah, and same like at Safe Fry's gas station.
Yeah.
If you're fueling your car, you're not near anybody. But people are wearing masks, and that's okay. But that is an example. You're 6 feet plus distant away from everybody.
But if you're going into Fry's, absolutely mask. You're going into Walmart. If you're going into and that is, we know that area where the air is. You don't get that cleansing going on. So Linda, are you there? Linda, do you want to talk about business outreach?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for allowing me no video. I'm having some buffering issues. So today we had our "Thanks for Keeping Globe Safe" poster printed, and I don't know if Mayor brought his to show the group. Did you bring that, Mayor?
I'm gonna hold it up.
Oh, it's well done. Yeah, it's very well done.
Thank you. And then also we created a face covering frequently asked questions. Thank you, Freddie. Poster to accompany that, and we had those ready to go a little after 2 this afternoon. So we pounded the pavement, and Michelle is helping me distribute those to all the businesses in Globe, and it's going to take a little longer than just a drop off, because businesses are really wanting to talk about it. They have questions. I would say the majority. I didn't have one business that begrudgingly is putting this up. They're very thankful that Mayor and Council are moving forward in this way and protecting our community and of course our business community, because this not only will it protect our community members, it allows us to keep our businesses open and our economy open, because the worst thing that could happen again would be that COVID stays here and we have to shut our businesses down. That would be so damaging to our local economy. It would take years for us to recover. Most businesses have the internal policy that they require customers or patients or clients to wear masks while in their space. And in fact, I had someone that was in front of me at Bank of the West. Bank of the West asked a little lady to please go back to her car for her mask, even though she was the only one in the bank. And that is a policy that they've adopted from the very beginning. And I think so many businesses have been operating in this way. So this proclamation is really not so much a change in how they're operating. I think it's more of a change for our community members, and definitely the visitors into our community, because not every community has moved forward in this way. There's been some variations, but for the most part, you're seeing participation in this. So I think it's going to be a good thing for our businesses and our community members.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, any questions for Linda while she's on there?
Fernando, any questions?
No, I'm good.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
No calls? Okay. Okay.
Hello, this is Dan.
Hi, Dan. It's Globe City Council.
Hello, everybody. It's Dan Schinder again. I just want to make a comment and hopefully give you all some positive inspiration for this whole COVID mask thing. The proclamation was the right thing to do. Thank you to everybody who put in all that work in such a short period of time. Like the mayor said, I too have seen a lot of things on social media, and this is mostly positive, but quite frankly, there's a lot of people that are struggling with this for what I've deduced is one simple reason, and it's that they simply don't want to be told what to do. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, are not going to read through the entire proclamation. So I'm suggesting that you possibly implement some sort of campaign on social media and the website with some bite-sized information, because when it comes to accepting something like this from people who don't want to be told what to do, it often really comes down to how it's framed. And one of the things I've been mentioning, and please feel free to use this if you feel it's worthy, is, you know, I've likened it, the mask mandate, to a speed limit. No one ever questions a speed limit. How can you tell me I can only go 35 miles an hour? Who would say that? And while there are factors that could still cause an accident and be dangerous for us even when going the speed limit, whether it's other drivers, something falling off a truck, bad weather, whatever it is. The same thing with COVID. And some people are saying, well, it's as bad as it is anyways, and why should that be any reason to subscribe to not doing anything? So again, using that speed limit analogy, I think you will find even further progress by ingratiating people into this, adopting these very important procedures by framing it in some bite-sized nuggets that are easier for them to accept and reason with. And, you know, there's also those saying that this proclamation is going to ruin local businesses. Well, that's not on the mayor or city council or the proclamation. That's on anyone who decides not to go into a business and be a patron just because they have to wear a mask and they don't want to. So, you know, let's put the blame where it really belongs. But I really am happy you did this. It's the right thing to do because this is not going backwards any time quick. So I just want to thank you very much, and hopefully you can spin out some bite-sized nuggets that are a little bit more digestible for some of the people who are very resistant about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan, for your input.
Thank you. Have a great night.
So just a reminder that the full proclamation, and it's 3 pages, and there's a lot of whereases. I would just get to the meat of it, and there's a lot of exceptions on there, too, that people need to read to understand when you don't have to wear a mask. We did put a lot of exceptions in there, so take a look at it. Get on our website and look at. You can get the full proclamation there.
And the FAQ is very handy too, because it kind of answers your questions, and those are going to be out there. So we are trying to get that educational, because this is something that relies on social capital. Everybody, they know it's a requirement, and I think I've seen Globe. They want to do the right thing. They want to follow and be courteous to others, and I believe there's a swell and just a bunch of people out there that are they may not totally agree, but I think they're doing it because they know it's the right thing to do and for the community.
Mr. Mayor.
No problem. Okay.
Marcia Samuel wanted to put this that she is that former advice today. She's on increasing asking including self and she found that fit.
Thank you, Marcia.
I have a comment about this issue. So, surprise, surprise, I'm not a follower and I don't like people telling me what to do at all. However, that said, we have an obligation to, all of us have an obligation to do what we all can personally do to protect our community. And we have a good leader. We have a good leader that has said, this is what I believe is necessary. And I'm asking for your support. And I think that's good enough reason for me.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. and matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. Public hearing items are designated with an asterisk. Prior to consideration of the consent agenda, the mayor will ask whether any member of the public wishes to remove a public hearing item for separate consideration. Members of the council and or staff may also remove any item for separate consideration. To have item A, consideration of waiver of section 2-4-10A prior discussion rule to allow action of the balance of the consent agenda. We have accounts payable, $191,446.55. Consideration of approval of council minutes, March 18, 2020. Special council meeting minutes, March 24th, 2020, council meeting minutes. We have consideration of agreements and purchases less than $25,000. Consideration of the late May building permits. We have consideration to approve fiscal year 19 through 20 first quarter distribution of bed tax funds in the amount of $9,222.51 to the Cobra Valley Center for the Arts to be paid from account number 10-51-51920, General Fund, Cobra Valley Center for the Arts. We have consideration for the non-fee facilities use agreement between Eastern Arizona College and the Globe Fire Department, and consideration for non-fee facility use agreement between Eastern Arizona College and the City of Globe Active Adult Center. Do we have anybody from the public, from the staff, or from council that wants to remove any of these items?
Mr. Mayor, if there are no questions or comments, I motion that we accept the consent agenda as read.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Fernando still there?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll call for the vote. All those in favor say yes.
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 Yeah.
Any opposed, nay? Motion passed. We have no new business items, so we'll go to action items. First on the agenda for action is discussion and consideration of Resolution 1814 to approve accepting a grant from the state of Arizona from the U.S. Department of Treasury's Coronavirus Relief Fund, Catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance, CFDA, number 21.019, as part of the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security CARES Act in the amount of $843,484, and to authorize the mayor's signature on the grant agreement terms and condition, and request to waive 2-4-10A prior discussion rule. Jeannie?
And Mr. Mayor, do we want to read the resolution, the title?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Shelley, can you read the resolution?
Resolution number 1814, a resolution of the City of Globe, Gila County, Arizona, approving and authorizing the mayor to execute a grant agreement with the State of Arizona Office of the Governor for the Arizona CARES Fund program for grant number ERMT-20-044 for $843,484. Is council pleased with that reading?
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. A couple of meetings ago, the city manager, Paul Jepson, advised council of the funds that were available on the CARES Act, funds that went to the state of Arizona in the amount of $2.8 billion, of which Governor Ducey is distributing $441 million between local municipalities. That distribution is based on census count, and so per our census count, the amount that was allotted to the City of Globe was $843,484. I submitted the application on last Monday, and by Wednesday I already had the award notification back from them. So I think it's going to move really quickly. They're just waiting for the grant agreement terms and conditions to be signed by the mayor and approved by council, and that's all that we need to accomplish at this point. Any questions?
Questions? Fernando?
No, I'm good.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, and when we were on the league phone call, they said don't, said this is available through a certain amount of time. They gave the parameters, but they said, better sooner than later. You don't want to wait on this just because you just never know. And you're dealing with federal money. You're dealing with federal money being handed down. And Jeannie, in the middle of the budget process, she took the time to jump on this and get this hammered out and get this landed. In between, even though now it brings it down into the current budget, not the future budget. And so that took some manipulations to make all that work and carry the money forward. But she did a wonderful job of getting this money landed, and we're very proud of her for bringing in $843,000 in Arizona Cares money to City Globe.
And I know there were some concerns out there about the amount of given to bigger cities and smaller cities. I did have conversations with Representative Cook and Senator Sinema on this, and really it turned out to be, initially they thought it was like in the 90 cents more they gave per person in the bigger city, and the rural communities got less. But I think it ended up being around 22 cents or 25 cents is what the latest was. But they were addressing it with the governor as to why rural communities were given less money than the bigger cities. What it turns out, I don't know where that will be, but they are addressing it at the state.
And it is just another indication of why census is so important.
Yep, it is.
So is there a possibility that we're going to receive more monies?
I haven't heard anything like that.
I don't know if there will be a change in it. It was just a concern that was brought up because we did get less per person per population.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Jeannie, if we do get more money, do we have the capacity to accept that?
We do have the capacity to accept it because it is considered a grant. The document that is attached for you to sign, Mayor, says grant application. And in our budget process, we always build a good amount of money on that line item because you never know what's going to come up during the course of the year and as far as available grants to apply for. This year we went even higher on that line item because of all of the coronavirus, and you don't know what's going to be available out there. So even though we have budgeted a good amount of money there, of course, nothing will happen unless we actually get a grant. But you can't spend it if you don't appropriate it. So,
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Jeannie, how do you define a good amount of money?
Well, in $4 million. Normally, every budget year, we budget $1,850,000 in the event that accumulated grants come in during the course of the year amongst the various departments. We need to be able to have the appropriations in place to accept those grants. This year, I think we made it $4,500,000, just in the event that something, you've got FEMA.
That's more than double then.
It is, yeah. And it contributes to the total amount of the budget, but again, it's not anything that we would spend if we didn't get it.
But we have to have that built in order to accept it. You don't know where that number would be, and you'd hate to lowball it and have to leave any money on the table. So just out of sheer, we don't know what the future holds. We put a very safe padding in there.
So with the presentation that was done on the CARES Act and the $840,000 has been appropriated through our city, we don't have to return any of that once we turn in our budget.
Right. That money is there to reimburse for public safety regular time hours, and we had that did not cover all of our public safety regular time hours, but that was the formula that we were able to accept all of that based on that.
So I don't want to take the police chief's cars away because I know he wants his cars, and we're using part of that money for the cars, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, but is there any asphalt money in there? Because those cars, all the public safety cars are driving on the asphalt.
And that would probably be a question better saved for when we get to the budget adoption of the tentative budget.
Okay.
Yeah, because he does need asphalt for his cars. But we'll get a little bit off, and we're going to be talking about that at that point.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Mayor, if there are no other questions or comments, I motion that we approve resolution number 1814 to accept a grant from the state of Arizona from the U.S. Department of Treasury Coronavirus Relief Fund CRF, Catalog of Federal Domestic Assistance, CFDA number 21-019, as part of the Coronavirus Relief and Economic Security CARES Act in the amount of $843,484, and to authorize the mayor's signature on the grant agreement terms and conditions, and also to waive prior discussion rule 2-4-10A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of Resolution 1814. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you.
Item B is discussion and possible approval of amendment number 3 to contract number 0019-0248 with the Pinal Gila Council for Seniors, PGSC, to accept an additional $20,000 in COVID-19 funds for fiscal year 2019-2020 for PGCSC to be dispersed between congregate meals and home delivered meals. Jeannie.
So again, COVID. Pinal Gila Council for Senior Citizens received funding from the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, and they are distributing that amongst the senior centers that they service, and City of Globe is one of those. They have allocated an additional $20,000 to the city to go into $10,000 each to go into congregate and into home delivered meals for the senior center program. And they've issued amendment number 3 for the avenue for the city to accept these additional funds and amend our contract with Pinal Gila Council Senior Center.
I move that we gratefully accept the amendment to the contract.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the amendment of the contract. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Jeannie.
Thank you.
Item C is consideration to approve resolution number 1813, adoption of the City of Globe fiscal year 2020-2021 tentative budget in the amount not to exceed $35 million, and announce the public hearing date of July 14, 2020 for the adoption of the final budget and tax levy. Jeannie and Paul. And Shelley, can you read the resolution 1813, please?
Resolution number 1813, a resolution of the Mayor and Council of the City of Globe, County of Gila, State of Arizona for the adoption of the tentative budget tax levy for fiscal year 2020 through 2020. Council, please accept it.
Yes.
Yes.
And Mr. Mayor, yes, I want to pass it to Jeannie to talk about the changes since we last talked.
So our new budget, the tentative amount is $33,390,322. Last year's budget was passed for $27,230,866. That's a difference of $6,159,000. The main difference where that amount comes from is the $4,500,000 that we have budgeted for grants, and we also have $3,294,000 built into the budget in the event that we apply for the WIFA sewer loans and get that. So other than that, the let me get to my other screen.
Mayor, can I ask a question real quick?
Go ahead, Fernando.
The WIFA loans would come out of the enterprise fund, is that correct?
I've got it budgeted out of grant.
Because don't we apply for a loan and technically we have to be approved for the loan, and then if we comply with everything, meet the criteria and get through the process, then eventually we get a grant in the forgiven amount?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilman Shipley, what we tend to do is park funds that are not are not guaranteed yet in the grant area. And then we will transfer that capacity over to the water enterprise section, is I believe why we put that in. We start in grants because we know that grant category, that line item, when we pass the budget, has no money allocated to it. Jeannie, is that
right? And it gets thrown into the grant account line until we get the grant, and then we will move the loan payment amounts into the wastewater budget, as well as the invoices that hit for work done for that grant.
Jeannie, on that.
So I think so I was kind of leading to this. Is the enterprise fund have to be a submitted budget approved, or is it because it's an enterprise fund basically run like its own business, run differently?
I'm sorry, I was listening to Jerry. I'm sorry. What was the question again?
So is the enterprise fund similar to because I know the city council's budget, basically you can't spend it if you don't allow for it to happen. So therefore we kind of set best case, worst case scenarios into the budget so that if we have to, then we can allocate that money and use it. Because if we don't budget it, we can't do it. I totally get that. Okay. The enterprise fund is run like a business, so it runs under separate rules. What I'm not sure of is the enterprise fund it's not the same type of budget where we have to allow for everything possible. Is that correct?
What I have seen in the 4 years that I've been doing it is that when the loan is initially received by the city, it hits grants, and then the annual installment payments get budgeted into the next fiscal year under the enterprise funds, under the enterprise accounts.
Okay. Well, I can talk to staff later. That's not actually my question, but we'll figure it out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't understand the question.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I know that we did have another question about changes in the budget, and so I wanted to explain what we're trying to accomplish here, and we can go to possible changes in the budget.
Wait, I misspoke. I just looked at my budget summary page. That money would not be going into the grant account. I have set up a separate account for the WIFA possible new loan. Each WIFA account, we set up a separate fund for it.
Does that answer your question?
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure, and I was like, well, wait a minute.
I'm sorry, no. I didn't look at my budget recap.
Jeannie, and the WIFA amount
part of the water business. It's the enterprise fund.
Right. And every time Jerry gets a contract that's going to be WIFA related, he will always when he brings it to council, he'll always say that it'll be paid out of water enterprise with possible reimbursement from WIFA.
Thank you.
One question on WIFA, and the full amount, what is it, $3 million? What are you putting in?
$3,294,000.
Does that include the forgivable, or would it be bigger amount that we're putting in for?
That would be a Jerry question.
So within the budget, you put the entire amount in because you don't know how much is forgivable, and it might be zero. So you budget in the entire amount, and it was like Jeannie just explained. It's put in as a loan, or just like a bond or anything else, but it's put in as a loan, and because you don't know how much of that is grant, and then is paid out as expenses through the installments through each year. So if that answered your question.
And Mayor? Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
And I sit on the WIFA board, and so what we do is they have to, the entity, whoever's applying, because it used to be just governments, but now it can be a private water company. We're really looking to facilitate providing drinking water, potable water, dealing with stormwater and wastewater. And so if it's for the overall good of the public, then now a private company can apply. But basically what happens is you have to qualify for the entire loan, show that you have the ability to pay. Then based on your population, based on your financial need and a couple of other factors, they apply that and they basically say this could be up to 70% forgivable or 50% forgivable. And that's agreed to going into it. And so then we let it go out but then it is audited and you go through the process. And so, and those numbers can change.
And along with that, Fernando, too, so our residents understand, because it's an education process, that we need to maintain that ratio in order to put in for additional or that higher amount of money to qualify for the forgivable.
Right. It's not much different than a personal person. So when you have, the better your credit is, the better rate you can get. And it's the same thing but in our case, the more we can get forgiven. So the better we show that we have the ability to manage this loan and pay it back and do what we say we're going to do, then the odds of them giving us a bigger discount is higher.
Great.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, before we get to the question from Councilwoman Giles, just so you know, the purpose of this is to adopt the tentative budget, which is the most that we could spend in a year, which is that 33,390, 322. We had put it at not to exceed 35 because we were still checking the numbers, making sure they had the right number in there. So I'll ask you to approve that with a stipulating that number. We will come back on the 14th of July for final approval. We can move money within the budget between now and July. We just can't increase the budget, but that's why we have that $4 million in grants. We have that capacity to move money around and accept more money up to that amount. But I know one of the moves that Councilwoman Giles had a request for a change in the budget, and so I wanted to. We were talking about your desire. And do you want to explain it, or you want me to?
Well, I think we need to have every year we need to expend some city funds on asphalt. We have roads in our districts, in particular districts 3 and 5, that have not had new asphalts for 30 years. They're patchwork quilts, they look like. Very hard to drive on. And even though those are older districts and the houses might not be as they are in some of the other districts, all those folks still pay taxes and they deserve as much services as everybody else. And I think we need to get some dollars every year, even if it's not what we have expended in the last few years. We still need some dollar figure in our budget every year for asphalt. I'm sorry, last meeting was the health insurance was was such a big deal that I heard no asphalt in the budget, and I'm thinking, yeah, I can't go along with that. But then everything with the insurance and what have you. So I did speak with our engineer, and he said he needs all the money in the HERF funds for the anything additional for the Connie's Bridge. And I understand that, but I just got to believe out of 33 million, there's some amount, even if it's a small amount. Is there some amount for asphalt so we don't lose the gain that we've started, the program that we've started?
So
Jerry wants to.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I really do. So we're going to take all the money from the cars.
No, we can't do that.
No, what I wanted to talk about was the plan that we had originally back in 2017 when we came up with a 20-year plan for the city. And we talked about doing asphalt over a 20-year cycle to try to cover, at least put something on every road in the city. So we have 130 lane miles of road, And thus far, we're 3 years in. We're supposed to be at 22.8 miles of roadway covered. We're currently at about 25 or 26. And part of that is because of the Broad Street project and the Oak Hill Street project, which put us past that. We've had.
Excuse me, can I ask a question?
Yep.
Wasn't that ADOT funded, not city funded?
So that's why we went past it, is because we had some additional funding, and that is part of the roads that we talked about, the 130 miles. So excuse me. So anyway, we're a little bit ahead, but we did pick up a grant of $1 million for the Cottonwood Bridge, of which will cost us about $1.6 million to build, and the excise tax that I've been saving for the last couple of years, 3 years, I have about $500,000 in that, which I would like to use this year on that bridge. It needs replaced. I don't need any of the asphalt money for Connie's Bridge. What we do have, that we will come up with some asphalt projects this year, but it'll be what's left over from the street repairs and from the HERF money that we haven't been able to get in the cycle. For instance, this year we did not get around to what actually we did. We replaced a lot of the signs, but it wasn't a full sign cycle because we had our sign shop was producing 1 or 2 signs here, and it wasn't the whole thing. So at the next council meeting, we'll bring back. We finally, after 5 years, got our sign and striping inventory set up for the city. We've been working on it for over 5 years now, since before I got here. And so that's coming back. So that's something that we're going to work on next year. We've got some money in there for signage. We got some money for striping. What you will see a lot of this year is we will be turning a lot of the streets black, but it'll be with chip seals and it'll be with fog coats, and you'll see a lot more striping out there than what you saw this year. So what we have is the streets on a 3-year cycle. So in other words, anything we've did a seal coat on, anything which is a chip seal, a seal coat, or a mill and fill, or an overlay like we did on Euclid, when it's 3 years old, we'll come back over and fog it, because that's part of the preventive maintenance that'll extend that life cycle of the road at least 10 or 15 years. So you'll see a lot more of that. And but we will have some small projects this year. We did I think South Street back in 17, 18, around in there, the section that goes down towards the jail, and that was about $120,000. So I expect kind of a job, something like that. Asphalt prices have gone up, but I think we still have enough within the budget to do a small project. What we have done this year is we've reallocated some of the salaries within the HERF budget. We've made sure that it fits more with the people that we have and the jobs that they're doing. So we feel real confident going into this year's budget that those salaries are allocated in the proper place. And I guess if I can answer any other questions, but I'm not giving up on the asphalt either. So and she just told me that there's an extra $3 million and I can go get a grant for it. So
lots of dump trucks.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this year, and this is on the HERF revenue and expenditures, we are budgeting $390,000 per.
What page are you on?
I don't have page numbers, but it's it is in. Danny, can you pull up
Tentative proposed or budget?
Proposed tentative budget. If you can find the HERF revenue and expenditures, is that? Yeah, if you can scroll up, and I'm not sure we need to put page numbers on there, but it's pretty deep into it. and so we are expending $390,000 in salaries and $288,000 in streetlights out of the 906, which leaves us with about $150,000 in capital costs on there. HERF is an ongoing. And let's see, I'm going to wait till too far. I can't see what.
So maybe just add just a little bit more too. HERF is a fund that we drain every year. We will use everything out of the HERF fund, and anything that's left over we'll leave in the 1/2-cent excise tax, because that fund you can push forward from year to year, and that's kind of what we did in order to lay back the $500,000 we needed for the bridge. That way it doesn't come out of the city coffers, it comes out of the 1/2-cent excise tax.
So just so the public knows what HERF stands for.
480,000, Jeannie just corrected.
Right, okay. So HERF stands for Highway User Revenue Fund for
right.
Maybe somebody in the public that doesn't know what that means. And we are allowed to use it for various things. We're allowed to use it for, of course, asphalt and road projects, but we are also able to use it on salaries for folks that work on our roads, and I believe street lighting is also in there, is it not?
HERF funds can be used for anything connected to the streets. Yeah, the highways and streets. And that includes streetlights.
So
are you telling me, am I hearing this correctly? You're telling me there's approximately $150,000 for asphalt, or am I just dreaming over here?
I'm telling you that if I have $3 left, I'm going to spend it on asphalt.
I like $150,000 better. Can I hold you to that number?
But I have about $150 in the street repairs. However much is left is what I will start on as a basis and build from there.
I'll go along. I'll concede to that.
Yeah. So
without taking the chief's car money.
Unfortunately, next year is our CDBG funding, which is I know is up for public safety as well, but it has been decreased big time.
I know.
The last time that we got CDBG, we were looking at over $400,000. This coming year,
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Jerry, we will have an equal and equitable discussion about how we allocate CDGB money within the departments. Okay.
So this year this coming year we will only have $210,000. So that's going to fall into this asphalt projection as well, because where I projected $400,000 for that, it will hurt that. So we'll make up for it. That's what I'm telling you.
Paul is rolling his eyes, just so you know.
No, I'm smiling.
Mike has a question.
Rolling his eyes.
Jerry, how do you schedule the road repairs? How do you pick the roads? Do you have a rotating list every year, or?
So here's what we do, because we pick the worst roads in the city, and we look at them. And in our city, the worst roads are all over the city.
That's for sure.
And so what we've done is, to be fair to every citizen out there, we've tried to fix roads in all 6 districts, and we've also went out and evaluated the roads a couple different ways. We use what they call a PACE system, which is a pavement evaluation system, where you go out and will a chip seal fix it? Will a micro seal fix it? Will a mill and fill, or use that kind of method? Like on Euclid this year, we decided that a mill and fill would not take care of that. So we did an overlay on it. We did a crack seal and then an overlay on that pavement. It'll give it about 5 or 6 more years. So we make that evaluation throughout the city. But we also throw in factors on where the utilities have just been replaced, because we don't want to put new asphalt over an area that had utility work yet to do, or has utility work yet to do. I'm less concerned about a chip seal. If we chip seal an area that's going to have a pipe replaced on it, that's a fairly inexpensive way to fix that. But I don't want to put a full asphalt job on something that we're going to replace the water line or sewer line on. So, and the other thing, if we do sewer lines this year, that'll have an asphalt component as well. So, did I answer your question, Councilor?
Yeah, I think you did.
So, there are areas that we crack seal. There are areas that we patch. There are areas that we chip seal. There are areas that we could micro seal. We haven't done any of that. We did what we call a SAM on one down on Jess Hayes this year, where we did a thickened chip seal. It's in front of the Beshbagawa there. And then we come back over it with an overlay, a 1.5-inch overlay. So it gave us a little thicken and helped us smooth it out by putting it in 2 lays. So we kind of look and see what the best application for the money is that we have. And that's what we've been able to do so far. And I might have had a little experience with this earlier.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Jerry is very good at gathering money from other sources, outside sources. He has shovel-ready projects ready to go. If somebody drops the ball in getting their funding, he goes in, sweeps it up. He is absolutely a pro at haranguing and scrounging and getting money for asphalt for the city of Globe. My only caution to him is I don't want him putting dibs on community development block grants prior to the discussion. And I don't know if he's giving me the eye behind me, but he might be. But Jerry's always closing. He's always working it. So.
In the CDBG grant, is Superior still in our rotation? Did they go with Pinal County, or are they still with us?
No, they're still in our rotation. It's Miami, Superior, and we each get about $70,000 this year. Yeah. So Superior's portion in their rotation will only be $220,000, I think is what Alan told me. And it's really the communities that pulled out and went with Pinal that really hurt us bad. So, but I hesitate to do anything on our own because that hurts the other 2 communities that we've been bonded together with so long. Any other questions?
Fernando, any questions?
No, I'm good, Mayor.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, unless there is any additional questions, and again, we'll come back. We'll adopt this, post this. We have with it the Auditor General forms, which Jeannie worked hard to get those lined up. They'll be posted as part of the public process for the budget. That's why we have 3 weeks between the meeting, because we'll pass this, we'll post it for 2 weeks, and then have that have the hearings lined up and all of the stuff we need to do. But my only comment is in the motion to approve the tentative budget that we stipulate that the tentative budget amount be that $33,390,322 in the motion.
Do we anticipate a decrease in it, or we don't think we'll?
No, we can always. I mean, council will vote and can lower the budget. You just couldn't add another item in there that would raise that total amount. But again, let's say that for whatever reason, and I think we did this last year, there was a couple things we added in there. We just swap it out of the grant funding capacity, and we can shift things around. If there's more of one and less of another, you want to tweak the balance or shift money around or trade off a CIP item, that can be done as long as it doesn't kick out the bottom number, the $33.9 million.
So we're going with 33.9, not the 35 million. That's
right. No, 35 million was a placeholder till we got our number right. We didn't want to. We'd rather put that placeholder not to exceed rather than put the wrong number in there, and just out of great care. So the actual motion should read that adopt the tentative budget in the amount of $33,390,322.
So moved as stated.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the tentative budget. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mayor, I just got one thing to add, if it's okay.
Go ahead, Fernando.
I just got to take advantage of this as a perfect commercial. So for self-determination for our budget. So with all this COVID money that's becoming available to help the community get through these hard times, if we were not allowed to do self-determination and set our own budget, we may not even be able to spend that money. And so it's really important that we allow the local jurisdiction to decide its own budgets.
And Mr. Mayor, members of the council, also we will be announcing that the public hearing date of July 14, 2020 for adoption of the final budget and the tax levy, and that's part of that motion also.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passes. Thank you, Jeannie. Item D, council will discuss and possibly...
Mr. Mayor, members of council, just before we go, so just want to thank Jeannie for all the hard work. She worked very, very hard. A lot going on in passing of getting the budget. This is her moment where this is locked in. So just I should have said it sooner, but she put a lot of weekends in on this and a lot of communicating and checking and doing things. She worked tirelessly for this, and now she just gets to kick back and put her feet up until July 14th.
And go camping? Why aren't you going to the Hilton?
So
what?
So I didn't mean to cut you off, but like I say, it was another interesting budget cycle.
And thank you for the format. It's a lot simpler, I think, to understand.
Yeah,
it was great. Thank you. So we'll go to council. We'll discuss and possibly approve a 5-year master lease agreement and associated documents with Enterprise Fleet Management, allowing the City of Globe to lease 5 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicles for an amount not to exceed $141,000. Includes 10% contingency, $13,000 for the first year, to be funded out of fiscal year 2020-2021 Globe Police Department Capital Outlay Equipment number 10-57-52000, and authorize the city manager to sign all lease documents after legal review of the city by the city attorney. Paul.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, in direction in adopting the CIP, or at least giving direction to bring forward the CIP at the last meeting, there was a concern about hitting the window and getting our enterprise fleet interceptor utility vehicles, and we wanted to get in line for those. In speaking with enterprise, what this allows us to do is to this council will allocate during this budget for the next budget. It's in the budget, but if you pass this, allocate the money, and give me the authority to have the city attorney review the lease agreements. Once we sign and allow me to, here comes a train, allow me to sign on behalf of the city for the lease agreements. Once those lease agreements are signed, we can put in and order the 5 cars or the vehicles. We don't pay them until they're delivered. This would be sometime after July 1, but you are, by us submitting and signing these documents, you are authorizing the beginning of this lease, and so you have to show that the money is there and be allocated. I probably made that more complicated than it needed to be, especially the train going by. But basically, we wanted to get our spot in line, and so if you approve this, we will. And Dale's here to answer any questions, and John Bell is there too.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. To Councilwoman Giles' comments earlier, we are still asking for 8 vehicles. The 5 that we're asking to move forward with right now are the patrol interceptor package vehicles. And because of the great demand and the upcoming ordering from the major departments around the state and around the country, we want to make sure that we get in line, because it really does impact how soon we get the vehicles. Right now, we're looking at probably about a 4-month turnaround. If we wait until this is completely adopted, we could be looking at a 6-month turnaround. So we're just trying to get ahead of the curve. And then after the overall budget's adopted, we'll go back and request the other 3 Class A vehicles for investigations and admin, and then that moves other vehicles back into it. And those are a lot simpler to get than the build-outs. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions?
And
Discussions.
Chief, the design and color, are they going to stick with the same design and color, or are you going to change that as you get new vehicles?
So the new design that we just put on the Sholo cars that we got, that's what we're going for. That's what we presented to council a few weeks ago. There's a lot more color in it. They'll be black and white patrol vehicles because they're the most recognizable, but the actual coloring for the vehicles are more in the historic sense of, you know, the copper beltway of Globe and has more color into it. But that's the design, unless there's a big question or concern concerning it.
So the ones that you showed us that had it's like a reddish copper, burnt copper colored that says
Correct.
Globe, that's what you're going with?
That's what we're going to go with, except for the one vehicle that'll be primarily used by the SRO. We are going to be adding a little bit more orange, and could be a cat on there someplace.
A cat. Oh,
Tiger.
tiger.
Say it.
Chief?
They're going to match the historical palette?
Yeah.
According to the high school, yes.
Oh, let's not go there.
We'll need to take that to the historic. Do we have is there a say-so as to where we purchase these vehicles? Is it a possibility to buy them local with our Ford dealer here, or?
So we've given direction to Enterprise to work with the Ford dealership here. It would be beneficial to not only the community, but us as the end users of this to be able to work directly with McSpadden. So they will be reaching out to McSpadden. How that actually works, we can have John speak to it, but we have had many discussions concerning that because we know that that's a desire of council and a benefit to the community.
And it does bring the local sales tax here.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, just to make crystal clear, by entering into this is a 5-year lease. This will be year one of a 5-year lease, and so the amount will be, you know, about 129 before the 10% contingency that you're authorizing for this year. But this puts us into a contract that continues those payments into the future. So we don't have the total cost of the vehicles, but we have the 5-year lease times that 129, and we'll be responsible for making those payments into the future. But that'll be in future budget cycles.
But that number will go up, that 129.
But if we buy additional vehicles. And so for these 5 vehicles, if we do nothing else, then we will have that 129 over a 5-year span to have these 5 vehicles go through us.
But our whole
Just Mayor and Council, the presentation that we provided was for a replacement cycle and an ongoing to ensure that we have those vehicles replaced every year. At the end of it, I don't have the numbers in front of me, to include fuel and care of the vehicles, it was around $310,000 yearly to maintain the entire fleet, which would replace 4 vehicles a year. At year 5 on this, we will have replaced the entire fleet, and be year 6 we'll start replacing the vehicles that we're purchasing this year. So it ensures that the police department has the appropriate equipment needed to go out and do what they're doing.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, this does not vary from the plan that we showed 2 weeks ago.
I'm okay.
Did you have a question?
I did, but the chief just answered it. So.
Well, I just have a comment. Our community, you know, the police department certainly deserves this, and so does our community, because like we've discussed in prior meetings, I'm sure when everybody calls, they want the car to get there. They don't want the car broken down on the highway. So that we need to do this. So with that stated, I move that we accept this as presented.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion, a second, to enter an agreement, 5-year master lease agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Chief. Any late agenda items?
Mr. Mayor, no, we do not.
Do we have any call to the public?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Jean, sorry, Shelley, just go ahead and read it as is. Okay.
We have a comment from Mr. Tom Walsh regarding the downtown item. Okay, so this comment is from Tom Walsh to council. The problem with downtown is the city hasn't decided what is the vision and long-term goals are. It is as it looked 100 years ago, or the flavor of the year. Nothing dates a building more than a color that was popular years after it was built. If you question the original boundaries, look up the Sanborn maps at the County Museum. Why was the Dominion Hotel sign painted over, but the Star Wars mural and grease bin is allowed on Hill Street? And that comment was from Mr. Tom Walsh. I do have another one.
Okay.
This is an additional comment from Marcia Scammell regarding the COVID update. Find it. Okay, Marcia Scammell, a family member of mine, of Marcia's, shared with her something one of her nurse clients shared with her regarding people who recovered from COVID-19 but still have lung damage and other organ damage and other leftover issues. Things the media are not mentioning. She shared with Marcia a x-ray of post-COVID-19 lungs from a recovered patient. She says she thinks she knows it sounds gross, but that she's in healthcare and she understands what she is saying. This nurse told her family member she has never run into something that was so vicious. Sometimes pictures can speak more than words. Actually, an x-ray shows the results of lungs being ravaged. Maybe more people will wear their masks if they saw that. Just a suggestion to council. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. No emails, no other phone calls or anything? Thank you for the comments. Scheduling the meetings, anything new?
No, I think we just the July 14th will be the next meeting.
Okay. The only and it wouldn't require a meeting if we were to rescind the proclamation. It'll stay in effect until we rescind it or the governor rescind it.
Because it was initiated by you as your emergency powers as mayor, you have the ability to rescind your emergency members or your emergency motions just at will without having to go through the council or anything like that. You have that power.
Thank you. Future agenda items? Anybody have anything for future?
So we had the two. We're bringing back historical preservation openings, and then what was the second one?
Library.
The library, a possible phased-in opening, and Mr. Mayor, I don't know if we wanted to talk about the any additional emergency declarations that you had planned. I don't think we need to bring them back there, but I think we did bring forward one that would allow people to stay in their motorhomes that they're put in quarantine.
Yes.
And I just wanted to share that with council that this is one the mayor is putting together. Many times, and since this is future agenda items, we can talk about this. Many times when the county says, you need to quarantine from your family members, the family members will ask that quarantine person to go and live out of the motorhome or camper trailer, if possible, within their house. That is by code not allowed in the city of Globe. What this emergency order would do would allow someone to live in their camper or motorhome in city territory, in city limits, if they've been ordered by the county to quarantine.
I read that. I thought that was well prepared. I'm in favor of that.
Yeah. So, and that's something, and it's informational to the rest of the council that we'll be doing that, putting that in place.
I think that's important. It'll isolate them from their family if they have that.
And so, if we do find someone living on their property, if they can show that they have, we will contact them. Make sure that they have the proper paperwork to do that.
I have a future agenda item. I would like a review and overhaul of what the city calls the probation period for either a new employee or an employee that has taken a different position. I personally would not ever take a new position in the city when there's a 1-year probation period and I could be fired for no reason other than I was on probation and that was good enough. I don't like that. I think it needs reviewed. I think it needs overhauled, and I think there needs to be council input.
So right now, the probation requirements are 1 year probation for new employees and a year probation for anybody for the new job. If they don't make it through probation, they fall back down to the old job. And so would the rest of council like to see that on a?
But some people have been fired while on probation.
So I guess what has changed then? A new hire is 1 year probation,
Yeah, new hire is 1 year probation.
and a promotion is that 1 year or 6 months?
1 year, but if they fail to meet probation, they come back down to the original position that they left.
Okay, so
If they fail their probation, they go back to their old position?
so they don't have because that really that could be a factor. Somebody fearing you promote and you've been here 30 years and they could just get rid of you with the probation.
Who's they?
Well, I mean, you could get fired. You could get let go if you're on probation and you promote within the department.
So we probably should bring this back.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, this is a
You guys
gray
good with
area.
that?
This is a gray area.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like it further explanation.
We'll add that to the list, and we'll bring that back on the 14th.
Well, it doesn't have to be on the 4th. I mean, I'm not requesting the
well,
14th, but I.
We can't lay that out there and then not bring it back soon.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other agenda items, future? Do we have executive session? I don't think we do.
No, we don't.
Today. No. So I call for the motion for adjournment.
Second.
Motion and second for adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.